Welcome to this new watercolor tutorial video. In this video, we will be working on painting watercolor citrus fruits. I really like to paint fruits, and citrus fruits are always they're very easy, very playful, and just a lot of fun. So let me show you what we're going to create. These are the three compositions that we will be working on in this tutorial. For this tutorial, we are going to need watercolor paper, some watercolor brushes. I used round brushes, smaller and bigger sizes. We're also going to be using watercolor paint. You need 2 jars with clean paint water, and you're also going to need some old rags and paper towels to clean off your brush. So what is different in this watercolor tutorial video compared to the previous videos is that we're going to start out with sketching. For the 3 compositions that we're going to make, you need to create a sketch first, and then we're going to start painting. Now, the thing is, when you sketch for watercolor painting, you want to create thin lines because watercolor are very transparent and you don't want to see the lines in your end result. So therefore, I prefer to use an HB pencil because then the lines aren't so thick and they are fairly easy to erase. So the thing is, when I paint with my HB pencil, it is not really visible on the video, so you won't be able to see what I'm doing. So therefore, what I did is I scanned in all my sketches before I started painting. So they are available as JPEG files to download, so you can use them as a reference. And one other thing is that we're going to start out with a sketch demonstration. So I am going to demonstrate how you can sketch your composition, but I will be doing it with a marker instead of a pencil. So it won't be the sketch that I will be using for my painting, but it will give you an idea, an example on how you can create your sketch. So you know what to look at and how you can go about it. So, well, let's start with the sketching. If you want to be good at sketching, you need to have a good look at your subject. In this case, I'm going to show you some citrus fruits like this orange, and you see the main lines, and if you have a close look, you see a small piece at the top and some lines in the surface of the orange. And here you can see the light on the orange. It has got this almost white spot in the middle, yellow around it, and you can see the darker shades at the right. And if you have a close look, you can see that the surface of an orange, the orange peel, it has got texture. It's got all these tiny dots. And this is something to keep in mind when you're going to paint them. So here's another example of an orange. You see the piece on the top and the lines, and also here you see the light and the shades, and again you can see the dots texture on the surface of the orange. So now we are looking at a sliced orange, and you can see it slightly from the side. Of course, the picture is cut off, so you cannot entirely see the shape, but from what we can see, we can paint our own orange the way we like. Starting in the center, you see this white, almost star-like shape, and then there are these pie-shaped pieces of the orange. So basically it's really easy to draw this, and you don't need to exactly draw it as a picture or as the orange you have in front of you. It's just that you need to look at the shape so that you understand it and know it. So what I want to show you here, you see that there's this yellow-orange edge of the orange, which you can also be drawing in your sketch. And then if you look closely, you see dots in the peel of the orange. Now we are going to be drawing slices. And for this, you draw a half circle and a straight line. Now you can see here you've got the pie shapes and a half star, but to make it easy for you, just draw a half circle so that you can have drawn the outer edge, and then you can put in your pie pieces. You don't need to be exactly copying a slice. This is something really easy that you can draw. And then what I want to show you in another example of another slice, you can see same star kind inner circle. And then these pie pieces, they are not perfect. They are not perfect pieces. And also over here, you can see some seeds. So these are all characteristics of citrus fruits, which you can take with you and decide whether you want to put them in your own composition or not. So here in the lemon, you can see some seeds. And if you look over here, this piece of lime, it's not a circle, it's more an oval than a circle. And here you see the star shape inside. It's kind of torn, so you've got like 3 pieces. And also looking at these examples, you see all kinds of colors which you can be using in your painting. Now, I also want to show you here an example of the tangerines. They are not a circle. And the one I've got here, well, it's a different kind. There are different kinds of tangerines. But you see, these are a little flat, and you can decide from what angle you want to be drawing them. But they also have got this middle piece on top and the lines, and also here you can see the lights and the shades. Now also, it's fun if you want to be painting leaves and a branch in your composition. So you need to look at an image as an example where you want to draw your line, and you don't need to make it difficult for yourself with the leaves because they can have difficult shapes, but you can also use the easy examples, just a leaf with some lines in it. And also here you see tangerine, I've got a texture of little dots on the surface. All right, so I think that we did enough exploring to be able to start with the sketch. As I said, I will be sketching with a marker, just so you can see what I'm doing and how I'll be doing it. I suggest you use a pencil. If you have trouble with drawing circles, you can use something like a mug, or in this case, I used a candle to trace. So for this composition, I'm drawing circles. As I'm showing here, you can use short brush strokes or short strokes to try and shape it as a circle. When you're drawing with a pencil, you can erase whatever lines you don't need. So I have drawn a few circles, and now I want to add a twig with some leaves to the composition. And I think here I'm going to put a tangerine, so it's more flat. I want it attached to another little branch with some leaves. And I like to add in a slice and a slice here as well. So with the circles, a few of them I would like to be like a whole orange or a whole tangerine, and the others I want to be like a slice or like half an orange. So you can see the star in the middle and the pie pieces as we have seen in our exploration. So this is an example of how you can create your own composition. So again, I created 3, and you can try to recreate those, or you can make your own composition and play around by sketching what you see when you're looking at these citrus fruits. And it's always fun in a composition if you have something with different sizes and try to use some different colors. And I also like it if I add leaves to a composition. Now, what I want to show you, these are my 2 favorite pencils to draw with when I'm painting with watercolors. It's an HB pencil. I also like to prefer watercolor pencils. And well, my actual favorite is this one. It's very cheap. It's just a basic fill pencil with very thin graphite. For this demonstration, I'll be using the HB pencil, and I am drawing thicker than I usually would do. I really advise you to draw thin lines. You know, if you want to make a sketch, first do it on like this usual piece of paper and try out your composition. And when you know what your composition is going to be, then you're going to draw with an HB pencil as thin as you possibly can on your watercolor paper. So accidentally, if you need to erase, you can use a soft eraser and then use a brush to remove the eraser pieces. And as I'm saying, this thing I am drawing here is much thicker than I would usually do, but otherwise you won't be able to see it. So if you are sketching this yourself, try to make it as thin as possible. And then after we have finished our sketch, what I always do is use a kneading eraser, and I'm going to look like push it on the paper, push it, press it, and I'm going to like lift off the graphite of the pencil of the paper. Now, because I draw really thick, you still saw the lines, but usually what you do is erase everything until you can barely see it. So I'm trying to demonstrate it, like the right lines is how thin I usually draw. And well, I don't think you can see it, you can barely see it. So when you're going to paint, you know where you want to go with the paint, but you hardly can see the lines. That's what you want. So now what you also want to do, and I'm going to demonstrate this with a marker, you want to paint within the lines. You don't want to touch the pencil lines, because now once the paint has dried, you can erase the pencil lines. If you would be painting over the pencil lines, you will remain seeing those lines. There's no way you can remove them. You will see them permanently. So I'm also going to demonstrate that with a marker. It's the same effect as if you would be using paint. If I would be drawing over this line, you can see the pencil line through the marker, and well, there's no way you can erase it. That one is fixed. It's going to be there permanently. To help you with your sketching, I created a Pinterest board for citrus fruits, and here I gathered a collection of images of citrus fruits which you can use. Like I mentioned, I scanned in the sketches from the compositions, and they are available to download as JPEG files. For this, you can go to the website sandras.com/citrus, and you'll be able to download them. So now we are going to start with our first composition. So this might be a good time for you to pause the video and start sketching your own composition, so then you can follow along. Once you're ready to start painting, then you just hit play and then we can start painting on the composition together. As you can see, I've reached the part where I drawn my composition and I'm erasing the excess graphite with my kneading eraser. And now it's time to start painting. As I explained before, we are going to try and draw inside the lines that we've drawn. And you won't be able to see them, but I've got some drawings of citrus slices on my paper here. So now you can see I am starting by painting the pie-shaped inside of a slice of citrus. So now that the inside is done, I am painting the outside, so a circle around it. While the paint is still wet, I like to drop in some different colors inside the pie slices, to give it some shading, give it more depth and texture. So I started painting with a really light orange and now I am dropping in some darker orange, and I think I'm also going to drop in a little bit of red or yellow. So now it's time to start on the other shape. This is not a slice, this is like, I don't know if you already see it, but it's like a whole orange or tangerine from above. So I wanted to make sure that the center, the white star stays white, and I'm basically painting in the rest of the circle shape with some orange. So for this I picked the darker orange, and I'm dropping in more of the paint inside the shape while the paint is still wet to create some more depth to make it more interesting. I'm also adding some other colors like light orange, yellow and red. Starting on another slice, again starting with the pie shapes of the center of the slice. Also, this is half a slice, so it's like half a circle. And as you can see, I'm taking the same steps for each shape that I'm painting. I'm basically just filling in between the lines that I've drawn. And I like to play around with the different colors. So this one I made yellow, so it's like a slice of lemon. And while the paint still is wet, again, I will be dropping in a few colors. Now for the next shape, I am starting by painting the shape with water. It's not perfect clean water, it's already a bit orange, but that's okay because I'm going to be using yellow and orange colors to actually paint the shape. The reason I'm doing this is that I like to play around with the wet on wet technique. You may have noticed that the wet on wet technique is what we're already using with the other shapes, because we first paint a layer and then we are dropping in colors while the paint is still wet. So now, because I wetted the shape at first and now I'm dropping in the color, you can see how the paint is traveling like really smoothly through the paint. It's really moving, and I always love to see paint flowing through on the paper like this. So I'm blending it a bit and dropping in some colors, and then this should look really cool when it's dried up. Here's for another piece, this time again a half a slice. So I'm starting in, filling in the pie pieces with some orange color, and again taking the steps like we've done before. As you can see, it actually is really easy because we already have drawn the shapes that we want to paint. I think the most difficult part is the sketching part, because once you've made the sketch, once you know what you want to go paint, you have it on the paper, then it's like filling in the blanks. And this personally is my favorite part, because now you can get to play around with all the colors. You paint it in and then drop in some colors. I really suggest you play around with dropping in those colors, because that is what gives your painting like this really extra touch. So again, another slice, and keep on repeating the same steps. So for now, I think you'll know what you need to be doing, and I'm going to speed up this video a bit. Now I am adding a lemon. We didn't cover lemons in the sketch tutorial, but I think it's basically the same steps, only we're not drawing a circle, but more like an oval shape. And well, the rest is basically just filling in with some yellow. I am painting with a really light wash of the yellow, and then later on I can drop in some extra colors to get that more, you know, that you can see the real shape of the lemon. I actually like to use green as a color to add some shades, because when you look at lemons, at least the ones I've got here, I usually see some green in them. So I think that's a really cool look. as you may notice, I had a little break here, and big parts of my painting have already dried. So now I'm completing the finished shapes that I still needed to paint with the first layer. And then I can cover the rest of the shapes that already dried with a second layer. Because, well, for the first part with blending of the colors, it's nice to use the wet on wet technique. But then for details, it's really nice if you can use the wet on dry technique. So I'm adding a few leaves. I like to add a green touch. I always, or almost always, start with sap green. I really like this type of green. It's also very, well, it's kind of light, depending on how much you use. And then I like to drop in some darker green, and it gives it a real shade. And to make it really look nice, I also then love to drop in some drops of yellow or even light blue. Now, as you can see, parts of the painting have dried, so really wait with this step until your painting has completely dried, and then you can add in some details. I like to add some stripes in the white edges of the orange slices and within the white stars, and also, on the brown button on top of the oranges. What I like to do now is add the texture in the lemon. As we discussed in the sketching part, there are these dots in the texture of the peel of the citrus fruits. So I really love to start adding details. And as you can see, I'm also starting with painting lines inside the pies of the citrus fruits. Also adding the dots on top of the oranges or tangerines. So again, when you're drawing these lines inside of the pies, they don't need to exactly be like on the image or on the example you have in front of you. It's just that when you look at how these fruits, how they look like, you notice that there's this pattern, that these lines exist. So you want to just incorporate that in your design, in your painting. Now, as you can see, while I already painted some dots inside of the tangerines or oranges, I'm adding a few with a darker paint. This helps to shape the fruits like a shade, giving it more depth. As a final touch, I'm adding some dark stripes on top of the leaves. So with that, we finished our first composition. Alright, so it's time to start with our second composition. For this, again, you can use the scan of the sketch that I made for this composition and try to recreate it or create your own composition. So this is the moment where you can pause the video, and when you finished your sketch, you can start play again, and then we can continue together by painting the second composition. So in this composition, I went for tangerines because I liked the composition with the tangerines on the branches. And also the colors, orange and green, I really like the combination of those. So just like the first painting we made, is just like filling in between all the pencil lines and adding in some extra color while the paint is still wet. What I usually do is start with the outline, and then with some water I'm going to spread the paint. So I'm creating like a light wash, and then I can pick some more paint or other colors, and I am going to drop in the paint, and then you see that the paint is blending and you get this really cool effect. At this point, you probably don't see the lines, the pencil lines I've got on my paper, but as you can see also on the scan, is that I've got a branch in front of the tangerine I'm painting. So as I said before, what I do, I just paint between the lines. So now it leaves open a white space, so later I can paint in the branch. Now you want to wait until the paint has dried, because otherwise, well, you see what happens, then it would be flowing into the orange of the tangerine. Although I personally don't mind if at some points in the painting that happens, because I really love the playful, it's not perfect. Watercolor is not perfect. So I love the playful effect and the fact that it's not perfect, and these kind of little mistakes, you can call them, but it basically is just the effect of watercolor. So if you don't want to have that happen at all, then you really need to wait until the paint is like 100% perfectly dry before you start painting in between those thin lines. So as you can see, my paint is still wet, and I want to start with the branch and the leaves. So I am starting out where it's not really touching the orange paint, and as I said, you can give it a try painting close to the edges of the wet paint, but then you've got a chance, you see it already happening over there, that the paint touches each other and then it starts blending. So now, with my steady hand and like the tip of my pencil, I am drawing in between those lines, and you see I am trying to keep white. And there at the left of the line, it starts blending in into my tangerine. And as I said, for me, I don't mind. I really don't want the entire tangerine to become green, but the small pieces, I personally really like that effect. So when you want to paint your leaves, there are several ways you can do it. You can paint the outline of the leaf, or you can, and then you can fill it in, or you can press down your brush and so from the tip down, and then pull it backwards, and then really press it down, and then release it again. So you have this shape of a leaf. So it's really up to you. I want to dedicate a whole other watercolor tutorial to different kind of brush strokes and painting leaves, but for now I think you should be able to manage by just tracing the outline of the leaves and then filling it in. And as you can see, I start again painting the leaves with sap green, so a lighter green. And then while the paint is still wet, I'm going to drop in some other colors, and in this case some darker colors. This is my preferred way for painting. And as you can see, a little bit of the dark green also got into the orange of the tangerine. And again, I'm just really loving the way that this looks. Alright, so I want to paint some extra leaves. I see that I forgot a few. So that's all. Also, while you're working, you can follow your pencil lines. And sometimes I must admit that I erase a little too well, so I don't exactly see where I want to paint anymore. But then I just like to look at my composition and try to see what I'm missing. Okay, so now it's the other way around. You see that the orange of the tangerine is blending into the green of the leaf. What I also like to do while I'm dropping in the dark of the leaves, I don't want to touch everything. So sometimes I try to paint half of the leaf so that it kind of looks like, you know, how a leaf looks. It's got this line in the middle, and then you just paint one half of it. And what I also like to do is very playful, add in some stripes, and of course, because everything is very wet, it's going to blend in. But this way, you're giving some structure to your painting. It's giving some texture, and you don't have this flat leaf. No, it's got some body. It's got depth. Alright, so not only do I like to drop in some yellow in the green, but I also like to drop in some blue. So I suggest you try it out and see the effect. So now my painting has dried, and with a smaller brush I am going to add some details. So at some points you see that the green paint and the orange paint have blended in between the tangerines and the leaves. Personally, as I said, I really don't mind. And now with some details, we're going to really make this a really pretty painting. And as for the details, there are two things that we're going to do. First of all, as we saw in the pictures, these citrus fruits have got like these bumpy peels, you know, with the dots in it. So we're going to make some dots. And I like to do that in a way that it's also kind of working as a shade. So I'm using different colors. Right now I'm using orange, and I'm following the sides of the orange and around the center of the middle of the orange. And I'm just going dot, 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 all tiny dots. And after this is done, we're also going to use some other colors. And then the second thing, after all these dots on the tangerines, of course, we're going to add some stripes, some extra details to the leaves. Now, as you can imagine, this is a very time-consuming part of the painting. And also, you are welcome to add as many details as you like. Perhaps you're not so into those tiny details for your painting. It's really something that I prefer to do. But I decided to speed up the video here because otherwise we are going to watch a whole 30 minutes to how I am adding dots to these tangerines. What I really like about this is that even though I'm using the same color paint at this moment, you can see a difference where I'm putting it on the tangerines, that sometimes the dots seem darker than the background and sometimes the dots seem lighter than the background. And now I'm also adding a lighter orange and some yellow to the dots. And now it's time to give some attention to the leaves. So with a darker green and still with my smaller brush, I am painting stripes all over the leaves. And I think it would be nice if I won't be doing the exact same thing to every leaf. Just mixing it up to have a better effect. So sometimes what I like to do is paint a line and then with some water blend in one side of the line. So you've got these softer edges and it also works like a shade. So for example, it's what I'm doing with this leaf right now. And we're done. So we've got one more composition to paint. So this is the part where you can pause the video and make your sketch. And for this, again, you can follow along with me or create your own composition. So basically, we are starting out in the same way as we did with the first two paintings. You paint inside the lines of your sketch and you drop in some colors while the paint is still wet. And you did do this for the entire composition. And once the composition has dried, then you can paint details with a finer brush, like the dots for the texture of the citrus fruits peel and the stripes in the texture of the leaves. And because there's not much more for me to add at this point, I speed up the video a bit, and I am going to put on a little music so you can just watch and enjoy and continue painting for yourself. And we're done! So at this point, you should have 3 compositions of citrus fruits, and I am really curious as to how they turned out. Did you follow along with me, or have you created your own compositions? I really hope that you enjoyed this watercolor tutorial video and that it was very helpful and inspirational. And I always love when you share your results with me. You can do this privately via direct message or email. Or what I really love is when you share it on social media, on Instagram or Facebook, and then of course tag me at Sandra's Art Studio and use the hashtag Create with Sandra's. That would be really great. And if you like to, I always love to give feedback. And also, please let me know what you thought about this video. And if you've got any feedback on what I can do different in a next watercolor tutorial video, I'm all open for everything. Because, well, for me, it is all about inspiring you and helping you to grow confident with your watercolor skills. And so for me, it's really great if I know what you thought about it. So also, if you like this video, of course, a thumbs up really is always very, very welcome. And if you want to see more of my content, then please follow me or subscribe so that when there's a new video, well, you get to know. So thanks again so much for watching and see you soon. Bye!